Welcome to the Demogorgon Elevation guide. This guide builds on the already existing guide I made and will be a continuation of the elevation section at 5.15. It turns out there was a lot more to elevations than I was aware of at first. This guide will cover elevations and details on how you can use them to your advantage as Demogorgon. First off, when pouncing off an elevation, your jump range is increased in relation to how far up you are. I have tested this out, and time-wise it's more worth to pounce than walk the distance itself. From the building in the swamp, you can save approximately 0.7 seconds, which means you'll be 3.2 meters closer to the survivor. This doesn't sound like a lot, but it can make the difference between the survivor getting to the window or not. Keep in mind, this was without any charge or cooldown add-ons. You can pounce after survivors if they use balanced landing, just to get that bit of extra distance on them. There is another important aspect to cover when it comes to elevations, and that is after pouncing a certain amount of distance, you will start going off cooldown mid-air. This means when you land on the ground, you will have a reduced cooldown reduction. You can use this knowledge to pounce off objects to further increase your cooldown reduction, sometimes almost making it non-existent. Use this knowledge to pounce after survivors and have almost instant pressure on them when you land. When pouncing off elevations, try and locate some low-lying objects, as you can slide off them and increase your distance further as well. There are limitations to this pounce, and they mostly come in form of invisible walls planted around the maps. You should avoid pouncing off the main building in and outside the Father's Chambers Chapel, Mount Ormond Resort, as well as a tiny house with the 2 windows. On Haddonfield you can't jump over the tall hedges as well. It is possible for Demogorgon to land on objects, and this can be quite useful if it's on top of a loop, as it can land you a free hit if the survivor sticks around. In order to land on objects, the general rule is that they have to be below your current elevation. There are a few exceptions to this rule, like the small gaps in the underground complex. Jumping diagonally over these kind of gaps also seems to be yielding more success than just jumping straight over them. Keep in mind that just because you can't jump over certain gaps, it doesn't mean you can't hit the survivor, as you're on the same plane. You can use this information to trick survivors who think they're safe just because there is a gap between the 2 of you. This is a calculated risk you must take on your own though. One of the gaps you can jump over that is quite useful is on the combine. Just line up diagonally on the combine like this, and be careful not to overcharge your pounce. This can catch survivors off guard, plus you will have less cooldown if you run the add-ons compared to a lunge. If you're on an elevation, it is also possible for Demogorgon to jump through windows. This can be quite handy sometimes, as they serve as a shortcut, like here on Groaning Storehouse. It can also be used to catch up to the survivor, as it saves you having to walk all the way around the loop to catch up to them. When also pouncing off elevations, Demogorgon won't destroy pallets, but will instead land on them. Another kind of elevation is ramps, which can propel you to fly further. Ramps in Dead by Daylight appears to be an elevation that suddenly ends. In order to use a ramp, you need to be a few meters away from it. If you stand directly on it or right next to it, you won't get the speed boost. There are many ramps in Dead by Daylight, but I will come up with some examples here. The stairs onto the house in Blood Lodge is a ramp. In order to fly the furthest, try and aim diagonally so you get the most elevation. The same goes for any other kind of stairs that ends abruptly, like on Thompson House and the Combine on Coble Farm. The small stairs on the Order here in Bunker is also a ramp, as well as the debris pile that lies on the side of it. The tree on the Shelterwood is also a ramp, but it's a bit tricky to use. There are many more ramps to be found in Dead by Daylight, but I hope you can kind of grasp the concept of how ramps work just from these examples. Thanks for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed this small extra elevation guide on Demogorgon, and take care.